Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone. Unlike residents in 30-some other states, the District of Columbia and the Virgin Islands, Delawareans without means beyond property often face hurdles when it comes to passing their property to loved ones after death. The transfer on death deed is a simple and cost-effective means to pass on property while saving time, money, and effort. Already in our state, people can pass along bank accounts, financial assets like pension plans, life insurance policies, annuities, and the title of their mobile homes to name beneficiaries without the complexities of probate or the expense of a trust. However, similar mechanisms don't exist for real property. Now, there's good reason to be wary of any do-it-yourself legal form that will pass along significant assets like property. But we already record a quitclaim deed and gift deeds and other types of deeds, and these instruments, like the transfer on death deed, only require a notary, not a lawyer. I will say right now that a will in Delaware, to be legal, does not require a lawyer or a notary public. It only requires 2 signatures. And also, the transfer on death deed will be a public document that people can review as soon as it's recorded. If there's any hassles with it, they can iron it out, as opposed to a will, which might be discovered, among the papers after death. So, I began looking into the transfer on death deed when Senator Eric Buxton alerted me to this law in May of last year. And I discovered that the uniform law, as originally written, would not be feasible here in Delaware, because in Delaware, each county has its own recorder, its own register of wills, and it has their own division of vital statistics. The uniform law was written for states where these are all combined into one. So Substitute Bill 1 makes a lot of changes and improvements after many meetings, but the main thing it does is it breaks out the 3 documents that support the law. It breaks out the revocable transfer on death deed, and the revocation of the revocable transfer on death deed would be recorded by the recorders, and the affidavit of death would be then handled through the Register of Wills, and that is their bread and butter to handle that type of thing. Since I've been the recorder of deeds in Kent County, more than a dozen citizens have inquired about the transfer on death deed, and as we just learned, the bill was actually inspired by a Kent County and Mrs. Buzzard, an Air Force spouse. The alternative to the transfer on death deed, which is the current status, is to add people to the deed while the grantor is still alive. Now, in our office, we receive a lot of complaints from people who wish they had not taken that option. Adding a person, not your spouse, to your deed changes the ownership of the property. It has an unfavorable effect on property tax and capital gains. It exposes the grantor to the new owner's creditors, and the grantor has now relinquished control over selling and mortgaging their own property. So for those who cannot afford a will or a trust, the transfer on death deed is a great alternative to adding people to the deed because it does not take effect until after death. The transfer on death deed acts all around the country have garnered support on a national level from organizations such as the American Bar Association's Real Property and Trust Estate Section, the ABA Commission on Law and Aging, the American College of Real Estate Lawyers, and, as we learned from the bill's sponsor, the AARP. If it's good enough for them, it's certainly good enough for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do appreciate you. These are the folks